So I could turn this into a part 2, but I don't really want to because I don't want to have
This wonderful relationship that has nothing to do with how attractive. Nobody cares about that.
just how small you are.
But what we should be, what the American goal is. As of right now, early April 2022, a YouTuber I discovered a few months ago recently did get taken off YouTube. Another YouTuber I found this year was actually taken off YouTube 2 years ago, and they're both deplatformed for going against community guidelines. Their specific fault was talking about trans people.
Too much?
And they were not on the side of trans people.
Very simply, no one can agree on what a man or woman is. Some people say a man or woman and is any adult human who identifies as a man or woman. But then you get situations where men say they're women so that they can get into women's prisons, and then they rape and impregnate, they rape women. You have trans women who enter female sports and beat all the women because of the biological advantage.
So I got into a conversation with someone in the comment section who said that some women have biological advantages over women and aren't kicked out of women's sports, same with some men, and they have some advantages over men. But as I found on Google, which she said was free, it is very clear that men have a statistical biological advantage over women.
And by the way, I'm very sorry for my British accent. I've been watching a little bit too much of a particular YouTuber. You might as well just see all the people I watch at this point. As soon as you have men who want to enter female prisons, as soon as you have men who want to enter women's only spaces, and self-identity is the only requirement, you have all these creeps, all rapists, all these people who are not simply men with dysphoria who want to live their lives. All of a sudden you have these people coming in and they are hurting women. There has to be more requirements than self-diagnosis, but we can't even say complete transitioning is a qualifying factor because some people financially or physically, related to health, cannot fully transition. It's valid for some people to say simply that a woman is an adult human female that is genetically and phenotypically female.
Honestly, it's very simple.
You just say a woman has female parts and a man has male parts because the woman's female parts have female gonads that have female hormones that affect her entire body. Same with men. But then you have those people who can afford physically transitioning. Let's say you have a Dalmatian. Dalmatian is a medium-sized dog with short white hair with black spots.
You've got some Dalmatians with lighter spots and darker spots. You've got some Dalmatians who are mostly black, some Dalmatians who are mostly white.
Well, then you've got a Border Collie. A Border Collie is not a Dalmatian, but, they're roughly the same size, so it's not that hard to get a Border Collie to shave them all down. Border Collies, generally speaking, have black and white fur, maybe black, white, and tan fur, so all you have to do is dye that shaved fur all white, and then, most Border Collies have perky ears, and most Dalmatians have floppy ears. So if you want a Border Collie to pass as a Dalmatian, you've got to surgically fix the ears so they flop down. Let's pretend you've got a successful transformation of a Border Collie into a Dalmatian, and you see a Dalmatian on the street. Most people are not really going to camp. But let's say you ask the person, "Oh, what breed is your dog?" He says about his Border Collie,
"Oh, this is a Dalmatian."
Well, it looks like a Dalmatian. Similarly, if you interact with a trans woman or a trans man, so I don't think we should go out of the way to speculate whether the men and women around us are biologically men and women, because this is just men and women who are trying to live their lives. A lot of dog experts know that Border Collies and Dalmatians look a little bit different. The facial structure, body structure. A lot of trans men still look a bit feminine. A lot of trans women still look a bit masculine. Some can successfully transition without you being able to tell, but some can't. So as soon as this person says,
"Oh, by the way, my Dalmatian used to be a Border Collie,"
well, most likely your response is like,
"Wait, what? Why did you destroy your perfectly healthy dog?"
Logical people can look at trans people and say, "You're messing up the endocrine system, the primary, the secondary sex characteristics of this perfectly functioning man or woman. For what?" Well, then you've got the doctors like Dr. Forcier who say,
does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry?
Well,
Does a chicken commit suicide?
Would you tell parents that in some ways it's riskier to wait?
Absolutely. In fact, what I say, the biggest harm is to do nothing.
Let your kid be loved and accepted for who they are and how they are.
and when we're talking about Dr. Forcier, like, I don't know who Dr. Forcier is, I don't know her character,
Oh, she's diabolical. Oh, she's trying to neuter kids.
but I'm going to assume the best about her. She's a mother, she's a doctor, she sees children. One can assume she actually cares about children. So you see a child who's crying, who's suicidal, and like, first of all, there's a complete difference between having a tantrum and being suicidal. I'm not going to pretend that children are never suicidal. They are confused, they are upset. Now obviously, trans children can be suicidal. Like, I've seen at least one documentary of a little boy who, like, at 7 years old wanted to pitch himself off a window because he wanted to be a girl so badly.
And he has talked about suicide or killing himself before.
So I don't think we should mistranslate any crying as suicide. You know, most little kids don't have a very concrete understanding of what gender is.
I felt like I was a girl because I liked the color pink and I liked girls' clothes and how they wore their hair and stuff.
Changed my name, my clothes, my room, and my pronouns. And that's really all you need, except for the fifth one that I still need, surgery and medicine.
So in doing research for this video, it always annoys me when conservatives will address issues about the transgender community without actually addressing some of the arguments. For instance, people who don't subscribe to the gender ideology, whether conservative or liberal, will say, oh, a little girl doesn't know that she's a boy trapped inside a girl's body. All she knows is that she wants to play with boy things. She wants to act like the boys, and vice versa with boys who want to be girls. But when you actually listen to these little kids, you hear them say, oh, like, in my head I saw a girl, in my head I saw a boy, or I was afraid of going through all the masculine changes and going through all the feminine changes. And what I would say to that is, well, as a Christian, I would say, you know, God has a plan for you as a girl. That's what my parents say to me all the time, but honestly, that's what I tell myself too. I would also tell the kid, like, if you look in the mirror expecting to see something other than you, you're never going to like yourself. You have to look in the mirror, forget everything you want to look like, forget everything you see in your head, and look at you. Look at you in the here and now. Pay attention to what you like about yourself and learn to like your entire self. And there will be always things about yourself that you don't like as much, but you can learn to like the way you look. And for children who are afraid of going through the changes of puberty, I mean, like, I know for myself, when I was like, 15, 16, I learned about hormone blockers for the first time. It was obviously too late for me. I was like, I wanted hormone blockers. Why didn't I get hormone blockers? The truth is that it's very easy to convince a little kid to be afraid of puberty.
Let kids be kids. Kids like to play dress up. These are children activities. These are things that children like doing. A little boy who wants to play dress up is not, does not have gender dysphoria. He's a little child playing child activities.
First time that I realised Stormy wanted to identify as male was about 2.5.
We started being unhappy with wearing dresses, didn't like hair clips, didn't like the pigtails.
Stormy wanted to identify as male, but it's not he said I want to be a boy, he said I am a boy, and that is the difference.
The whole transgender thing, gender dysphoria, that's just an adult thing. He doesn't understand that. He's just a boy.
I feel like a boy and I want to be a boy.
5-year-old Jacob LeMay is fierce. He loves karate and dogs and spaceships and playing with his sisters.
So 2 sisters and you're the brother, right?
Yeah.
Were you always the brother?
I'm not always.
What were you before?
They're a sister.
How come it changed?
Because I wanted to be a boy.
Some of these parents of 3-year-old trans children who are just tomboys or just feminine boys, the parents are pointing to gender non-conforming behavior as the reason their child has gender dysphoria. This is very unhealthy because you're treating unusual behavior with hormone replacement therapy. The hormone replacement therapy does sterilize children. It wrecks the endocrine system. I don't say this as a conspiracy theorist. I say this as someone who listens to trans and detransition stories.
Medical patient for the rest of my life. I have to inject myself with hormones. If I don't, the cirrhosis will get worse. years. So they pretty much made a cash cow out of me till the rest of my life.
I just spoke a month or two ago with a mother whose 14-year-old daughter was put on blockers. They discovered after 2 years this 14-year-old girl has osteoporosis. That's something that like old women get.
Being on cross-sex hormones for a couple of years prevents you as a man from passing on your lineage. And as a woman, if you want to actually get pregnant after taking testosterone, you're going to have to take a lot of estrogen supplements. I'm not even going to straw man here. I'm just going to take the most extreme possibility. You're a psychiatrist. You see this little boy. The parents say, my little boy has wanted to cut off his male genitalia. That looks like gender dysphoria. Well, you start by asking the child,
why do you want to cut off your male genitalia?
You listen to the answer. The answer is probably going to be rudimentary. It'll probably be somewhere along the lines of I don't like it because it's ugly, or I don't like it because it's what girls have and I'm a girl. These are two very separate scenarios, and you need to approach both of them differently. You start asking from there.
Why do you think it's ugly?
I just don't like the way it looks. It's ugly, it feels weird under my clothes.
Well, then maybe you've got somebody who has, sensory issues. Maybe he needs to wear softer underwear, softer pants and shorts. Or maybe you've got someone who's deeply disturbed by his body. I'm not going to give you the solution. As a psychiatrist, if you send him to a therapist who specializes in body dysmorphia or, body issues, because, that's your job as somebody who understands the human brain. You address it the same way you do an eating disorder. You've got to learn to accept your body. Or then you have a situation where the child says,
I want to cut off my male genitalia because girls don't have it, and I'm a girl.
When you ask the child, why are you a girl? Probably say something like,
oh well, because girls can wear dresses, or girls can be pretty.
Then you challenge the child, why can't boys be pretty? Why can't boys wear dresses?
Well, because boys don't wear dresses.
But you help the child recognize, these are rules that you have made up for yourself. It could be society, or it could just be because it is kind of hardwired into our system to see women in dresses and long hair as beautiful, and men in long hair and dresses as ugly. You've got a man who likes wearing dresses and makeup because he just likes wearing dresses and makeup. But as he's, putting on a dress, putting on makeup, doing his hair, probably in his mind, he's expecting to see a beautiful woman in the mirror. And he'll look in the mirror and it's just a man in a dress. Most dresses are not meant to fit men, so it'll probably look a bit weird on him. And he'll probably think he looks ugly and be like, it'll be so much better if I were a woman. Same with a woman. Most men's clothes are not built to fit her, so she'll probably look like a little boy. I don't think this is just society, because you don't really see men going out wearing dresses. You're more likely to see women in suits than men in dresses, but you don't really see that in society because most men are comfortable wearing male clothes and most women are comfortable wearing female clothes. I think it's biologically hardwired into our own heads to see men looking handsome in men's clothes and women looking beautiful in women's clothes.
If someone happened to watch this far in the video and is saying, well, what about in the 18th century where men would wear makeup? And I pose this to you. Men never would wear women's dresses. They wouldn't wear corsets. They wouldn't dress like women.
But if you're gender non-conforming, you might feel more comfortable in the clothes of the opposite sex. Gender non-conforming is being abnormal, and it's okay to not be normal. You've got to teach yourself to accept yourself the way you are. If you transition just so that you look good in your clothes, well, that won't work, because bodies are not made for clothes. Clothes are made for bodies. And if you can't accept yourself now, you're not going to accept yourself by taking hormones and undergoing surgery.
Okay, I think I do have to bring this up because there are always going to be some people who are proficient in the Bible and Christianity who come into my channel saying, you're a hypocritical Christian, don't you guys believe in not cross-dressing either? Well, so you're probably referring to the verse Deuteronomy 22:5, which my parents constantly quote at me, but that's kind of where the term cross-dressing comes from, and if you take the verse at face value, it says that cross-dressing is wrong, but I think there's a bit more to it than that. I interpret that verse in the Bible mostly to mean do not assume the gender role of the opposite sex in society. You obviously need to take any literal Bible verse literally. If we took that verse literally all the time, then we would have not being allowing women to wear pants, and we might see that as unsanctionable, and we would have very backwards clothing for men and women. Also, men used to wear makeup and leggings and high heels back when it was societally acceptable to do that. So basically, clothing and fashion changes over time. I think the only way to have clothing and fashion change over time is if we break the rules. And most Christians don't think it's wrong for women to wear pants. The only way we're going to have a society where wearing dresses is now a societally acceptably masculine thing to do is if more men wear dresses, is if more women wear pants, more women wear suits, more women have short hair.
If Jessie Gender feels dysphoric about male anatomy, then Jessie should have the right to get that surgically altered. If Blair White and Gigi Gorgeous feel comfortable with breast implants, if that makes them happy, then they should have the right to do that. But I shouldn't have to call them women. What I'm arguing for here is free speech. And back to the situation of the two YouTubers I talked about at the very beginning. There was a male YouTuber and a female YouTuber. Male YouTuber's big issue that I disagree with was making a lot of videos about a particular trans woman that he didn't like. It goes a bit beyond that. Originally, the male YouTuber considered himself a trans ally. The more he grew to dislike a certain trans YouTuber, the more research he did about transitioning in general, and the more he realized that it went beyond just
accepting a trans woman because she says she's a trans woman.
It went to, well, why do so many men around me think they're women now? That led him to doing more research, to the point where he was almost going to distrust transitioning in general, leading him to the logical conclusion that transitioning and being seen as something you are not is most likely not the helpful solution to a person with gender dysphoria. Now, the other YouTuber is a detransitioned woman who identified as a man for a while, and that led her to all the behind-the-scenes medical work and, you know, the nightmarish hellscape that cross-sex hormones and surgery is. She was showing that to the public because kids, parents, adults don't know what they're going into. This particular YouTuber was showing you what is going on before you take the health risks of consuming cross-sex hormones. You have to understand what this does to your body. Even if the permanent effects might get you what you want, consuming cross-sex hormones decrease your lifespan. They might have other ramifications than just giving you secondary sex characteristics of the opposite sex. They might damage your skeletal system, damage your sex drive, damage your metabolism. And her being kicked off YouTube is keeping many of these young people transitioning in the dark about exactly what they're doing, so that they come to the conclusions on their own and find out it's too late, I've already ruined my body doing what I had no idea what I was doing. Talk about things without bothering people.